Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Destination Debrief. We are really excited to focus on actually multiple destinations that are best served by cruise lines. So, we're going to go around the world today. We really are excited to talk about seeing many of these destinations from the sea. My name is Ross, and I'm on the Fora team, and I lead training and development here. I'd love to also introduce Cameron, who will be co facilitating today's call.
Hi, everyone.
We are going to go ahead and jump right in because we have a lot to cover. We're going to first talk about why cruise. Why are some of these destinations best served by cruise? You're going to see a lot of bucket list destinations in today's destination debrief. So we hope you're really excited about thinking about some new ways to get clients to some of these destinations. We'll talk a little bit about the ideal clients to book for some of these destinations, as well as how long to stay. Most cruise line itineraries can vary from just a couple of days to actually many months. And we'll talk a little bit about what could be best for each destination. Those bucket list destinations include Alaska, Antarctica, Galapagos Islands, Indonesia, the Mediterranean, and Egypt. So we're going to start west and work our way around the world. We're then going to move on to what's new and noteworthy, what's coming up in the cruise world. And throughout, we'll also talk about how to get to some of these destinations. If time allows, we'll also get to some other need to knows, highlight some famous moments in some of these destinations, as well as talk about, if not cruise, what could be a good option for clients who may not be ready to hit the high seas. As always, with our destination debriefs, we want to equip Fora advisors with lots of helpful ways to market these opportunities to clients, a cheat sheet, some Instagram templates, and other social media templates you could choose to use to promote some of these opportunities. You also get a magic article as well as a MailChimp template and a helpful Google map so that you can always reference a lot of these destinations. So let's jump right in. As we think about why cruise, particularly for these destinations, the truth is that these destinations are actually best accessed from the water. So you will see a lot of opportunity to jump around from island to island or get into some otherwise hard to reach areas of these destinations, and a cruise just makes the most sense. Even more so, it's actually quite convenient. You can get on the boat, unpack once, see multiple destinations, repack once, and move on with your journey. You'll also see a variety of different types of cruises from adventure to luxury to mass market. And I think there'll be something in there for every type of client. So whether your client is more of a luxury traveler, is more of a family traveler, multi-gen, there's a lot of different cruise lines that can cater to your client's needs. And so we've tried to highlight quite a few of those opportunities throughout. In terms of length of stay, most of the destinations that we'll cover are probably going to be about a 1 week stay. If you choose to extend, of course, you could do so both on the boat or in pre or post cruise extensions on land. And there's a real value in doing that as well. So 1 week is generally about the time frame that we would recommend for a lot of these destinations. We're going to focus on Alaska. Of course, tons of wildlife and beautiful views to see in Alaska. We'll then move over to Antarctica, a true bucket list destination that can otherwise be quite difficult to get to and is really only accessed by ship. We'll talk a little bit about the Galapagos Islands, which again, otherwise hard to get to, or at least get around if you're not going to be on a boat. We'll do the archipelago of Indonesia, as well as talk a lot about the Mediterranean, a very often chosen destination for cruises. And then we'll wrap up with Egypt, getting on the Nile and seeing what all that Egypt has to offer. When we think about the top cruise lines booked with Fora, we'll see a few of these pop up in our destination debrief today. That includes Royal Caribbean, Virgin Voyages, Norwegian Cruise Line, Celebrity Cruises, and Princess Cruises. You've probably heard about most, if not all, of these cruise lines before. So we're also going to go a little bit further and talk about some lesser known or less obvious options to really position our advisors as in the know insiders to make really strong recommendations to our clients. So let's start with Alaska. You'll see Alaska, of course, is a beautiful destination, lots of wildlife, some beautiful views of glaciers, quite a remote destination. So again, really access best by ship. And there's definitely opportunity to get on land either during the cruise, before, or after the cruise itself as well. I would love just to highlight that most Alaskan cruise lines and itineraries don't actually start their journeys in Alaska. For most cruisers, you'll start in Seattle or Vancouver, and we recommend a round trip itinerary just to make it really easy, although there are some north and south options if you choose that as well. Of course, if you wanted to spend time in either Seattle or Vancouver before or after the cruise, we think there's real value in doing that. I think as a general rule throughout all of these destinations that we'll cover today, we always recommend that clients arrive at least one day prior to embarkation to make sure that they are ready for the cruise when it takes off. so that they're not left behind or stressed on embarkation day. In terms of seasonality, Alaska is quite seasonal. So you really want to make sure that you're recommending options for your clients in the prime time, which would be the peak summer months for North America and the Northern Hemisphere. That's going to be June to August. There's also a ton of value in doing shoulder season either in May or September. There's also likely going to be a little bit more availability. So the peak summer months in Alaskan cruises tend to sell out at least a year in advance. So you want to make sure that your clients are planning far ahead to make sure that they get their pick of cabin, stateroom, and that they feel really well equipped to have this experience in a beautiful room on board. Otherwise, most cruise lines actually don't operate cruises outside of these peak summer and spring months. So be sure to make sure that you're always informing your clients of what their options really are. I'd love to kick it over to Cameron just to talk a little bit more specifically about some cruise lines that could serve Alaska.
Yeah, thanks, Ross. So we're going to start it off with Princess. So most of you've probably heard of Princess Cruises. They're really known for their Alaska product. They have won multiple awards for their Alaska itineraries. They are perfect for families, multi-gem families, couples, retirees, basically anybody. The cool thing about Princess is they actually own their own lodges in Alaska. So you get a really up and close experience. And they're one of the few lines that actually offer access to Glacier Bay, which is the UNESCO World Heritage Site with tons of wildlife and natural beauty. They also offer really cool activities, including a scenic train journey if you're going to one of their lodges, sled dog visits, and tons of activities for families. Next up, we have HX. HX, if you've heard of Herdegruden, they are the sister company and they are the expedition side of Herdegruden Cruises. Whereas Herdegruden does Norwegian coastal journeys, HX focuses on sustainable travel and wildlife viewing and all their expedition trips. Then we go to Silver Sea. Silver Sea is your traditional luxury experience for your travelers who really want that five-star focus to service. They do a suite attendant in your room. They have a special dining program called SALT. It stands for Sea and Land Taste, which they source local sustainable produce from Alaska and the surrounding areas. And then finally, we have Uncruise Adventures, which is perfect for families. They do your laid back adventure option with kayaking, paddleboarding, hikes, and they're very children friendly. But we like to remind everyone also when you're doing expedition cruises and cruises to these type of active areas that you want to make sure you meet the minimum age for children if you have families going on board.
Let's keep it cold and move on to Antarctica. So, really, truly the opposite side of the world, heading towards the South Pole. Antarctica, of course, is another bucket list destination, and you really have to get there by boat. And so, why cruise to Antarctica? The simple answer is you mostly have to. There are a couple of opportunities to get there by plane, but that would be a different destination training that we won't talk about today. But in Antarctica, you, of course, will continue to see beautiful glaciers, a different type of wildlife than you're going to get up in Alaska. You'll see the penguins here on this image, which just look happy as could be. And it's really fantastic to think about clients being able to see them from afar as well. It's a truly remote destination without a full time population. So it is just incredible to be there. And you really would only be able to get there by boat. While you're on Antarctica, it's going to be clearly wildlife focused as well as little bit of influence around the science behind keeping Antarctica a preserved place. To get there, you'll likely need to embark at the southern tip of Argentina in Ushuaia. So if your clients are looking to head that way, you of course could pair this with a pre or post departure experience elsewhere in South America, maybe Buenos Aires or Patagonia. There's a lot of opportunity there to extend this type of a trip. Of course, similar to Alaska, you want to go there when it's warmest. And in the South Pole, the warmest months are going to be in the North American winter months. So you're going to be looking at late November through early March as like the peak season to get there. Otherwise, it might just be too cold to get there. Things would freeze up. And of course, cruise lines wouldn't operate. So it's really great to, I think, pair this with a festive type getaway, especially if you have clients who are looking to do a larger family trip or multi-gen experience. being on a boat can just make that type of experience that much easier. And for most of the Antarctic cruise lines that we'll talk about today, they also include that cold weather gear. So if you're thinking about packing, a lot of that's going to be provided. So you really can just show up and have everything that you need on board. I'm going to let Cameron talk a little bit more about that, including highlight some specific cruise lines that could be of interest to your clients.
So for Antarctica, we're going to kick it off with Quark Expeditions. Quark is really known as the polar expert. Unlike a lot of the other cruise lines, Quark only goes to the polar regions, which is Antarctica, as well as the Svalbard area and the Arctic region. And something to keep in mind if you have clients who want to see wildlife, don't forget polar bears, Arctic, penguins, Antarctic. I know like we all get confused on like what wildlife we can see sometimes. So the crazy thing about Quark is they actually have a ship called the Ultramarine, which has two twin engine helicopters on board. So if you have any adventure seeker clients looking for a one of a kind experience, they can go heli hiking, heli skiing, alpine kayaking, and they really offer a one of a kind experience for your adventurous travelers. Next up, we're going to talk about HX again. They, of course, also have an Antarctica cruise available. And again, as we talked about Alaska, they're very into conservation and sustainability, and they offer more of a laid back experience on board. Nat Geo Lindblad Expeditions is one of my favorites because they are a great product for multi-gen families and as well as young kids. They have a partnership with National Geographic, hence the name, and they have a huge commitment to education and conservation. And their ships are also small. Most of them only I think host 28 to around 50 guests on board. So they're perfect for your clients that are looking for a small ship experience. And finally, we have Penant. Penant is the true luxury five-star experience for your clients who really want that special touch. They have some really unique features. They're a French company. All their ships are bilingual, but they do also offer some sailings that are English only. They're the world's only luxury icebreaker ship on Le Commandant Charcot, which is their highest end ship, and they have this really cool blue eye lounge that some of you might have heard of. It's actually under the water level and it's a multi-sensory underwater lounge experience. And then speaking of finally Le Commandant Charcot, it is the only luxury polar class ship with a class 2 icebreaker on board. So your clients are really able to go to areas where other ships can't go.
All right, let's warm things up a little bit. We're going to go further north in South America and move over to the Galapagos Islands. If you have not yet explored the Galapagos Islands as something that you might promote to clients, it's a true bucket list experience, and I think one very much worthwhile putting in front of clients when they have a special occasion to celebrate, or if they have just seen a lot of the common destinations that we talk about quite frequently and are looking for something new and super rare. Of course, the Galapagos Islands are famous for being a research place for Charles Darwin and continue to be protected and really preserved. So, when you think about the Galapagos Islands, it's important to note that there is a no human trace policy, meaning every time you have a human interacting with anything on the islands, everything needs to go back to the boat with you. No trash left behind, no presence of humans is really allowed. And that includes things like flash photography with wildlife. So your clients should certainly be prepped in advance to make sure they understand some of the rules and restrictions that go along with a Galapagos experience. In terms of getting there, most clients will fly into Ecuador and they can either start their cruise journey from the mainland in Ecuador, or there are some cruise lines that operate embarkation directly from the Galapagos Islands airport. So there's a couple of options there, and some cruise lines will even package that flight from the mainland to the Galapagos as part of the cruise experience. So, depending on how tolerant your clients are for multiple days at sea, something to keep in your back pocket as some optionality for them. In terms of best time to visit, we're going to be looking at the second half of the calendar year, that June to December timeframe, when it's going to be dry and very comfortable temperatures. Of course, there are some peak seasons within that, so just something to keep in mind for clients who might be looking to travel in the summer months if the kids are out of school. But if they have some flexibility, the fall can be a great quote unquote shoulder season for the Galapagos Islands as well. Cameron, I'd love to highlight a couple of cruise lines that do the Galapagos experience quite well.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this one. Echo Ventura is part of the Abercrombie and Kent travel group. They are owned by a Ecuadorian family. So it's just a small business. They focus specifically on the Galapagos, and it's a super high-end luxury small ship experience. They are very dedicated to preserving the environment in the Galapagos, so much that they've donated, I believe, around $500,000 to conservation projects in the area. They also focus on locally sourced food as well as serving Ecuadorian wine on board. So it's really a local product and very high end product. Next up, we have celebrity cruises, which is often a surprise for a lot of people because when most people think of celebrity, they're thinking of, your typical traditional cruise with the giant ships and the buffets on board. And even though celebrity is a premium product, they're not really thinking of like the small ship cruising experience on the Galapagos. Well, surprise, surprise. They have a beautiful luxury ship that was built specifically for the Galapagos. It holds around 100 passengers and it's a true luxury product. Every single suite on board has an ocean view and a private balcony. Every room offers a suite attendant. And again, it's only 100 people on board. So they like to call it their small ship yacht experience for the Galapagos. And then finally, we have Silver Sea and Uncruise Adventures again that we mentioned in Alaska. Silver Sea again is for your more affluent adventure seekers who want a little bit more of a traditional cruising experience, but still have that like luxury and adventure option available. And then Uncruise again is for more adventure seeking, laid back families. And they offer a really great product for those who don't really want that high touch luxury experience.
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about the small ship experience in a destination like the Galapagos because it really is an intimate environment. Before we move on to Indonesia, we've talked a little bit about Antarctica. We've moved over to the Galapagos, which are both very focused on, eco-friendliness and research. So I'm curious, Cameron, if you have any cruise lines that you would highlight as best for science-minded people or those who would be really interested in attending some type of excursion or onboard lecture that focuses on the science behind all of these destinations.
Yes, definitely. So I think the great thing about those destinations is that the cruise lines realize that that's what people want now. They want to learn more about the environment, how cruising impacts that. And a lot of the companies are putting in a lot of money to do research and work with scientists and experts to make sure that they are doing the right thing when bringing the passengers to those locations. Like you mentioned, the Galapagos is really strict with their restrictions. A lot of the cruise lines, HX, even the traditional cruise lines like Silver Sea, Lindblad, they have scientists on board and experts on board. Everyone from marine biologists to expert wildlife photographers, so that your clients can really engage with the experts while they're on the ship experience and really learn more about the environment that they're in as well as the activities.
That's amazing. We're going to move over to Indonesia. Indonesia, of course, it has many different islands to explore. And for clients who might be going to this area of the world for the first time, a cruise may not be something that they need to do. But if you have clients that have an extended amount of time, or they're just really focused on seeing something unique and different than the common itinerary might include, a cruise can be an excellent add on to an Indonesian itinerary. There are so many islands to explore that to not do it by cruise is going to eat into a ton of your time that you have for the trip. So, accessing these by boat is just going to make the most sense in many cases. Of course, there's Komodo National Park if your clients are interested in seeing some of the wildlife, including those Komodo dragons, which I think is a true bucket list experience. And of course, just getting closer to local culture and community can be easiest when you are going via boat. Most cruises will depart from Bali, although if you do want to have clients land in Jakarta, that's an option as well. But Bali is really going to be that kickoff destination for most cruise lines that operate Indonesian cruises. In terms of when to visit, the dry season is going to look a little bit different in Indonesia than it might in other parts of Southeast Asia. So it could be a great destination to recommend for clients whose dates are less flexible. The dry season is going to be from May to October, with July really being that peak month for clients to be there. So just something to think about. We're going to be really looking at the May to October timeframe as the best time to visit Indonesia. And there's some really special products in Indonesia when it comes to cruise. So we wanted to highlight Rascal Voyages, which is really more of a floating villa than it is a small cruise experience. There's only 5 cabins with a maximum of 10 passengers. And so you can imagine just how unique and different that experience would be from even a small ship experience that you might get in other destinations. Those 10 passengers are served by 12 crew members. So more crew members than there are passengers on board. And the way that Rascal Voyages operates, it's typically for private use, although occasionally throughout the year they do open it up for individual cabin sales. So if you do have a large multi-gen experience or group going, this could be a really great way to have that private yacht feel with the sort of the sense of place and small touches that can really just put your clients in the mood to be in this destination. In addition to Rascal Voyages, of course, we've already talked about Ponant, a luxury option for clients that serves destinations worldwide. And Silver Sea pops up once again, a true luxury experience for clients. So you have a few options here. So again, if your clients aren't able to take advantage of the schedule that Rascal Voyages offers for those single-use cabins, or if they're not ready to do a private use experience, Ponant and Silver Sea will offer them a little bit more flexibility based on their dates. All right, we're going to keep it moving and we're going to go over to the Mediterranean, a favorite amongst many cruisers. And I think the benefit of cruising on the Med is that you have access to a lot of destinations that might otherwise be hard to get to or would eat into time that you have by flying from one destination to another or taking a ferry from one island to another. There are so many historical sites and attractions in the Med that it's hard to narrow the field, and you certainly won't see all of them on a single cruise itinerary. So you could send clients time and time again on different Mediterranean itineraries and let them explore the region multiple times. So I think it's really about setting them up for success and letting them focus their interests the first time and then just trying to tap into that again, time and time again. So there are a couple of major cities in Europe that will be jumping off points for embarkation day. The most prominent ones are going to be Athens, Barcelona, Rome, Lisbon, and even Istanbul nowadays. So you really want to think about where in the Med, East, West, or Central Mediterranean your clients want to be for these itineraries as you make your recommendations. The benefit of some of these embarkation cities is that they mostly have nonstop flights from many worldwide places of origin. So it could be a really easy experience for your clients to land in destination, have a day or two to acclimate, and then get on board. Of course, they could do that after the cruise is over as well. The high season in the Med is what you'd expect. It's that May to October, probably really June to September timeframe that's going to be ideal conditions. And while you will port in cities throughout your itinerary, I think the benefit of being on board is that you don't have to deal with quite as many crowds as you might in some of these very popular destinations in the peak summer months. So you kind of have it's more of a controlled environment when you're on the boat compared to some really crowded city centers that you might get if you were to opt for a land experience instead. I should highlight, though, there are itineraries that operate later into the fall. So if your clients want a little bit more temperate conditions, they do have some options there if they want to avoid those really hot peak summer months. And Cameron, I know you've been on the Med recently with some of these cruise lines. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yes, it's one of my favorite destinations, and it's a favorite for a lot of our Fora advisors. It's one of our most booked destinations, actually. So I'm super excited to tell you guys about Explorer Journeys. I recently had the pleasure to sail on them with a group of Fora advisors. They are really unique because they market themselves as the cruise for people who don't necessarily like to cruise. And that's because they are a luxury boutique hotel experience at sea. They don't offer your traditional main dining room or buffet. They have individual restaurants on board, Pan Asian, steakhouse, French restaurant, and all of them have their own kitchens. So they operate as individual restaurants. One of the things they love to talk about is they actually have a Rolex boutique at sea. And we all know how serious watch collection is these days. So it's one of the few Rolex shops where you can actually walk into the store and walk out with the Rolex on your wrist. And they love to talk about that because there's a huge wait list. And it's a really relaxing experience. There's tons of space on board. It's no lines. And so it's perfect for your clients who are like, well, I really like to try cruise, but I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about the traditional cruise experience. Next up, we have celebrity cruises. Celebrity, for those of you who might not know, is a part of the Royal Caribbean family. They are more of the higher end premium product to Royal Caribbean, and they focus a lot on dining. And it's a perfect cruise line for couples on honeymoons, multi gen families, people who want more of an upscale experience and not necessarily all the activities and family experiences like the water slides and the climbing walls that Royal Caribbean offers. Up next, we have Crystal Cruises. Crystal is owned by Abercrombie and Kent now. They actually had gone out of business during COVID when all the cruise lines were struggling, but they've come back stronger than ever. They've completely remodeled their ships. The rooms are bigger with less rooms on board. And the cool thing about Crystal is they offer a ton of themed cruises. So they have specialty cruises with featured guest chefs. They have Broadway performance cruises. So they offer something for everyone, and they do focus a lot on culture, art, history. One of the really exciting things coming up in 2026 is Four Seasons Yacht. So they are perfect for your clients that are looking for really high end luxury experience, as well as your typical Four Seasons hotel fans. They are launching in 2026 and they will have a 1-to-1 staff guest ratio on board. So, really, for your clients who want that high touch and service aspect to their cruise, and a cool thing to note is they are actually building a marina on board so that the guests are going to have access to water sports, which we haven't seen before in any other product. And then we have Regent Seven Seas. They are also a high-end luxury cruise experience. However, they are a little bit more traditional. They offer a all-inclusive product and they really focus on the quality of the food, the upscale service on board, and they travel all over the world. So your clients can sail on them everywhere, not just in the Med. And then we have Ritz Carlton Yacht. Just like Four Seasons is going to be a smaller ship product. They do a lot in the Mediterranean because they really focus on that yacht type experience. And they do go to unique ports where the larger ships can't access. And finally, one of Four's favorites, Virgin Voyages. Virgin Voyages is our adult only product. So, unfortunately, no children on board. It's very inclusive. They like to say that they are for everyone, no matter the age, as long as you're young at heart and like to have fun. And they really focus also on a high end dining experience, no buffets, and lots of really fun activities if you want it. Otherwise, they also have areas where you can just lounge and relax.
So many options in the Med, and it's very hard to go wrong. So I think your clients will be spoiled for choice when it comes to a Mediterranean sailing. The final destination that we want to highlight is Egypt. Again, another bucket list destination that is perfect for clients who are very interested in history, archaeological sites, and other historical sites. There is so much to see and do throughout the country, and it's really worth a multi-week visit if your clients can take that much time, including a cruise as part of that experience. When we think about cruise in Egypt, we are really thinking about a Nile River cruise, and that can doesn't need to be a full week. It can certainly be just a couple of days or a few days. You can either go round trip from Cairo or you can do point to point. Most clients will likely start their Egyptian experience in Cairo, but many clients also choose to visit multiple cities in Egypt when they're there, including flying over to Luxor and seeing a different part of the country. To get from some places in Egypt to others, they often have to go over pretty bumpy roads. And so getting on the Nile and cruising there instead can be a really comfortable way to extend the trip and to get from one place to the next. Of course, Egypt, like most destinations, has some pretty important seasonality to be aware of. It can get quite hot in certain parts of the year. So we recommend typically going between October and April to make sure that those temperatures are going to be comfortable for clients. That peak season really being right in December, around the festive time through the early winter months. Just make sure that your clients are aware of the temperatures because it could be quite hot if they go outside of the recommended cool season. But let's talk about some actual cruise lines that could serve these clients' needs.
Yes, so we're going to kick it off with Oberoi. They are owned by the Oberoi Hotel Group, and they are a super high end 5-star ultra luxe experience. All their rooms on board have panoramic views. It's for your clients who really want that over the top river cruise experience because they have everything from marble bathrooms and steam showers on board to some unique features that some of the other river cruises might not have, like club and cigar lounge, a library. They even have a spa on board. And one of their big focuses is the gourmet dining and the high touch attention to detail service that a lot of clients want. And then next we have Abercrombie and Kent Nile Cruises. I love Abercrombie and Kent because I'm kind of like a history nerd. I love always learning about the local area that I'm in. And the wonderful thing about A&K is in Egypt they have what they call sunboats. So they're a smaller river cruise experience. They are really for your client that is looking to learn and get access to sites that you can't get elsewhere from other companies. They focus on a very exclusive private cultural experience. They have private docks on the Nile, and they even have Egyptologists on board who do lectures and take you to sacred sites all around Egypt. So it's really for a client who really wants to get immersed in that destination and really learn about what's going on in Egypt and the history of the area.
Yeah, both fantastic options. You know, we've covered a lot of the unique and special destinations that we think are best served by cruise. And we just also wanted to highlight some need to knows that your clients should be made aware of if they are new to cruising or have not cruised in quite some time, especially around dining. You know, most people who take cruises are concerned about the food. They might be foodies and they want to make sure they have a great experience. And that also kind of leads us into this conversation around the all inclusive nature of mini cruises. So, as far as I know, Cameron, and you correct me if I'm wrong, every cruise will have some type of food included in the experience. Most of the cruise lines that we focus today have a true all inclusive product. Some of them do have a main dining room or like a specialty dining restaurant style, which may come at additional cost. But it's certainly something to make sure that you are brand matchmaking with your clients based on their food preferences or their questions around the food. Cameron, anything you would add around dining on board?
I think that nowadays food is so important to so many people that the cruise lines are really doing their part to ensure that there's something available for everyone. So, one of the important things to remember for your clients is if they don't want a buffet experience, if they don't want to deal with specialty dining, there are options out there where everything's included. There's everything from locally sustainable source products to even test kitchens on board where you can, do your own cooking and tasting.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think it's super important to talk about health and safety as well, not just for what that means for passenger experience, but what that can also mean for any potential reroutes, missed ports of call, or replaced ports of call. Just by nature of having people on board in a confined space, of course, health and safety are going to be paramount. So most cruise ships have some type of medical support on board should something happen. And they also take precautions throughout the boat to limit the spread of germs and just make sure that everybody is sailing healthily. One thing that we often hear about, though, is sometimes some client frustration if ports of call are changed, either during an itinerary or just before an itinerary. So, Cameron, I'm curious if you might have any words of wisdom for advisors who are trying to support clients who may have to face some of those issues.
Yeah, this comes up a lot, Ross. And it's unfortunate because it happens all the time, especially during hurricane season, as we know. But every cruise line, unfortunately, has it written into their contract when you book your client that they can change or cancel a port at any time. So, the best thing that I recommend is just if you know of this or you think that it might happen, just give your clients a heads up. I always try to just keep my eye on the weather when I have clients booked and just keep monitoring things to make sure that I'm aware. And that way, it's better to keep ahead of it and just give your clients that warning, even when you're booking the cruise. If they're going, September, October, just say, hey, you're traveling during hurricane season. I just want to make you aware that the cruise line can cancel or change the port at any time. Are you okay with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Better to get ahead of that than have to deal with it last minute. In terms of packing, some cruise lines will have formal nights or dress nights, galas on board. Some will have dress codes for certain restaurants or dining experiences. So even if you have sort of a laid back luxury style cruise experience or a cruise ship with no bona fide dress code, I always recommend to clients to take at least one nice outfit just in the event that they want to kind of dress up one night, or if they're on an itinerary that does have an explicit formal night. Just something to be aware of. So always check the cruise line itself and the itinerary that your clients are going on before you recommend a packing list to your clients. When we think about getting to port, getting to your destination, arranging transfers in advance can be a great way to reduce stress, especially if you have a large group of clients getting on the same ship. So we do recommend that clients arrive at least one day prior to embarkation, and we always recommend an arranged transfer just to make sure clients are on time should they need to be. Most cruise lines do have scheduled embarkation time so that not everybody's arriving at the same time to get on the boat at the same time. So just be sure that you're always thinking about that as you prepare your clients. Same with travel requirements, depending on the destination. The country of embarkation may require a visa for travelers from a variety of countries. So always look into that prior to your clients going on their trip and help them with any visa services should they need it. And then finally, one thing I do want to highlight, because Cameron already mentioned Four Seasons Yacht in 2026, and booking windows just look so different for cruise lines than they do for other types of travel experiences. Book early. Most cruise lines open their booking windows 2 to 3 years in advance, and most clients have booked at least a year in advance. There are sometimes some last minute deals, but we highly, highly, highly recommend booking as far in advance as possible so that your clients have their preference on staterooms. They don't leave disappointed if they didn't get their pick, especially when it comes to suite products. Most of the suites on board some of these specialty experiences can go first. So it's super important to look ahead and plan early. Anything else that you would add for need to knows, Cameron?
I think you covered everything. I definitely agree with Ross. Try to book ahead as far as possible because most of the time, those are the best deals.
All right. Just wanted to highlight a couple of fun things about some of the destinations that we've covered, including some famous films and TV shows set in these destinations. I'm looking at Mamma Mia there about some of those Greek island cruises. So that would be something that you could share with your clients in advance if they wanted to watch a couple of movies or TV shows to really put them in the mood as pre work to their vacation. Super fun to think about. And we also recognize that cruises might not be for everybody, or you might get a client request that starts with a cruise and then they end up maybe changing their mind. So we also want to equip you with some back pocket ideas for how to continue working with clients who maybe decide, maybe not a cruise this year, let's do something different. Or, 6 of our 10 family members wanted to do a cruise, but we don't want to leave the other 4 out. So can we explore something different? I do want to highlight that there are other types of travel experiences that can mimic the convenience and comfort of a cruise, like a multi-city or multi-day train journey with sleeper cars where your clients would be super comfortable. Again, unpack once, see multiple destinations, and continue on your journey. We also recognize, some of the larger cruise ships might not be for everybody. So you can always find those smaller ship experiences as well. We talked about a few today, but also just wanted to highlight that there's an entire community of river cruises, particularly in Europe and in North America, that you could explore as well. If your clients are looking for more of that small ship experience in a more laid back or casual atmosphere. Of course, there's glamping. There's always some nice road trips that you can explore for clients, or go with the traditional sort of overland expedition that you can help curate for your clients. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for everybody who's listening in and looking to learn more about some of these destinations that are really best served by a cruise experience. Of course, there are so many more destinations that we did not cover that our cruise line partners really excel in, including places like the Caribbean, Mexico, Central America, and many, many other destinations worldwide. So this is just the tip of the iceberg that you could see if you took a trip to Alaska and Antarctica. But just wanted to say thank you once again. Thank you, Cameron, as well.
Thanks,
Have a great
everyone.
day, everybody.